Hello, hope all is well. So today we'll be looking at something a bit different, and that's finding and buying used gear online in Europe. So we've all been there, I think. Up late night, scrolling through listings, you're hoping to find that holy grail or a good deal on something you've been interested in for a while. And for me, over the years, I've always tried to buy used if I can. So especially effects, pedals, amps, and even guitars. So there's a lot of listings out there. Small ads, there's Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Reverb, and so on. But in Europe, given that we have so many different countries, cultures, and nationalities, there's quite a lot of things and places to navigate through. So I'll start things with a question for you. So what's the best deal that you've ever gotten on a piece of used gear, or even through a trade? I'll give my answers at the end of this video. So a quick disclaimer before we get started. Use your instinct when buying things online, especially sight unseen. So the old adage of, if a deal is too good to be true, it probably is, and you'll save yourself a lot of heartbreak and tears in the process. So a quick thing to start, I live in a country called Luxembourg, and as you can see, it's right between France, Belgium, and Germany. It's a very small country, and we're very close, and we border with these different countries. So it's also a relatively quick drive to get to these different countries, and I have done in the past driven outside of Luxembourg to meet up to either exchange or buy or sell gear. And I always found it quite funny ending up on petrol stations at borders and things like that, and handing over gear, and you open the boot and it's like, oh, here's the guitar, and people are walking past like, okay, what's going on here? But I'm sure stranger things have happened at those petrol stations, so I don't mind too much. And for my first tip, it would be to use Google search when you're trying to find a piece of used gear. And I'll use the example here of, say, a Strymon timeline, which is a really good delay. So we do the search in Google, we'll get our usual results. And the thing to do here is you click on tools, and then on any time, you then check either the past month or the past week. And so by doing this, it will really crunch down the sort of results or things that have come out in the past month in terms of listings and things like that online. So right away, we see a few listings from, say, Reverb. And then here's a French small ad site, for example. Here's a Belgian one. So the idea with this, I would say, is useful when you're trying to find something that's maybe more specific and hard to find. So instead of trawling through loads of different small ad sites, which can be a lot of fun but time consuming, you can use Google to do the search and then limit it to either the past month or even the past week. So the Google search can be useful when you're trying to track down some more elusive sort of gear. So in this case, I've put in Friat Deliverance, which is a really good amp. I've got a really old VHT one, for example, and in Europe they're kind of hard to find or to track down. So I put this in Google search, we'll go to tools again, and then we'll set it to the past month, and we'll scroll down and see what we get. It's a bit like fishing, I guess, to some extent. So we've got the Reverb listing here, we've got some various forums, things have popped up there, and if we keep scrolling down bit more, we find this is a Czech Republic small ad site, for example. Or here's one from, I think it's Finland. So we can see here there's like a 4x12 in Finland. Or over here there's the Deliverance 60, and I guess the 4x12 for 1800 from the Czech Republic, which seems pretty good. And if we keep scrolling down, maybe we'll find some other listings. Craigslist pops up, for example. So some of my videos pop up. Why not? I guess that's a good thing. There's some other things that pop up, so preamp pedals and things like that. You know, try and read as best you can. There might be different languages, but a Strymon timeline will be written as a Strymon timeline, and the same thing for an amp like this. So it gives you an idea, you know, there's only, you know, a page worth of results for something like that. And if there's something you're looking for that is extremely specific, this might be a way of finding that on a listing in Europe that might be closer than you think, or maybe it's for a good deal as well. So a quick word on, say, Facebook Marketplace, which can be a really good place to find extremely good deals locally. And I think a lot of people also use this to list stuff online, and you can also use it to look through Europe. So to do this using the filters, for example, you can set the radius to be a lot larger, and then under location you can change it to something else. So let's say we take Milan, Italy, and it will change the location to here. And then through that we can browse Marshall results in a 500 radius around Milan. So that can be something, I won't say fun to do, because you can spend way too many hours moving around, and I think there are websites that also trawl through Facebook Marketplace on a much larger scale, which can be used. But if you know of some of those, you can put that in the comments below. I haven't really used this so much for that. What I've usually done has been for local listings. I think the craziest thing that I found when I was looking for a VHT, a fat bottom 2x12 cab, which took me many months. I actually found one in Tenerife, of all places, and it was still for sale, but the shipping alone would have been impossible to pay to get it over here. But those are some of the things that you can find if you really are persistent and look through a lot of different listings, depending on location. And the other thing in Facebook is that there are a multitude of groups per country as well that deal in used guitar gear. I can name a few. In France, for example, there's La Brocante du Guitariste. In Germany, there's Musikinstrumentbörse. I hope I'm saying that right. And a quick shout out to a really good group, which is Pedalboard, which is sort of pedal effects enthusiasts, and there's also a lot of buying and selling on there. And the thing there, these are communities that are very engaged and people that are trustworthy and great to talk to and share a similar passion for what you do as well. And I'll quickly mention Reverb as well. It's always worth looking for used gear through Reverb just to check on prices, because maybe you end up finding a really good deal through Reverb. The thing I find is, having sold things on here and bought a few things as well, sometimes the prices don't really reflect the sort of deals that you can get because of the fees that are on Reverb. So there'll be a very high shipping cost, for example, to sort of compensate for that, or the listing will be higher to basically help offshoot those fees. But that's a whole other video and topic, but it's definitely one to look at as well when you're trying to find certain bits of gear. All right, so on to a few different countries and small ad sites, and let's see what we get. So let's start off with Germany, and we're going to look at Kleinanzeigen.de, which stands for small ads, basically. It used to be called eBay Kleinanzeigen, but they changed the name, I think, was it last year? But essentially it's the same thing and the same functionality. So it's this huge small ads listings that span across the whole of Germany, and it's a really good place to look when trying to find certain bits of gear. And what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to look for a few of the same items across these different websites. But this is just to give you a quick overview of these different websites and have some idea of prices as well in Europe, because maybe you're looking at this from the US or somewhere overseas and you're curious about prices in Europe and how things are. So we'll start with Strymon Timeline. And here we go, we have a couple of results already, and then we can see the sort of prices here. So on the low end, around the 310, 315, even 300. And then it tends to be around that. So between 300 and 350 even. And it goes up a bit more depending on if there's accessories and things like that. So now on to the Netherlands, and this is one I've used quite a few times, and it's Marktplaats. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly. .nl, and it's a similar thing. It's a small ad site, and we'll do the same thing. We'll look for a Strymon timeline here. Have a look for an idea of prices. So you get some of sort of new shops shops that are selling them as new, and they're also listing, and that's something you might find on some other websites as well. There's some adverts, and here's one of our first listings. So that's like 350 and 350, even 400, maybe with some other accessories, 400. Obviously these websites will be in different languages. You can use Google Translate to switch. Up here you can translate each page to say English, and it will translate everything to English, which makes things a lot easier. I understand a bit of Dutch, so I enjoy the challenge. Over to Italy. So this is mercatinomusicale.com, and this is where you can find some really good deals if you're looking for, say, VHT and Fryette gear. For whatever reason, I always find some really good listings here for that sort of gear. But we'll have a look again for a Strymon timeline. Use the same example. And these are the results. What's cool is that they also have these listings on top. So you can say just the used listings, which is what Annunci Usato stands for. And we'll scroll down and have a look at the different prices. So 330, 400, 350, 360, on the low end, 300. So somewhat similar to the listings that we found in Germany. On to France, and there's a few here that I look at. One is Audiofanzine, which is more community-based, I guess, but they also have small ad listings. So the same thing, we'll have a look for a Strymon timeline. They'll have some new listings, but here we click on Petite Annonce, and here we see some of the prices. So, I know, 420 as an accessory, as a foot switch with it, 380, 380, or 350. So it's more expensive than some of the other places that we just looked. There's also Zikinf in France, which is sort of more music-based small ad site. Look here as well. And we have a bunch of listings here. I will say quite often you will find the same or the similar listings that are here over here, because people are listing them in multiple places. It's fairly common. But I've done this as well. I've listed them as I've been a member of this for quite some time. Listed things here. I've also listed them here from time to time. And here we get a good overview from the start. So here are the small ads for a timeline. As we can see, it's pretty similar to what we just looked at in Audiofanzine. And the last one for France is Le Bon Coin, which is a more general small ad site. I will say I haven't really used this one much, as I've had more hassle than it's worth when trying to find and buy stuff through here. But it can be useful to track stuff down if you live close, and buy things at a good deal if you find it on this site. So the same thing again, Strymon timeline, line, and we'll see what comes up. And we see that the prices are a bit lower than they are on those two other French websites that we just looked at. So here they're closer to some of the others, so like 350, 320, 360, 390, and then here's one that's also listed, I think, on one of the other pages. So these are a few websites that I tend to look at when trying to find bits of used gear. I will say my first port of call tends to be through Facebook groups, especially effects pedals, for example. I'm part of a really good group in Germany. It's called Pedalboard, and it's a really good community of, I guess, pedal and guitar enthusiasts. And you can find a lot of not only helpful advice, but you can find Great deals on there and great people to talk with. So a quick shout out to everyone on there that might be watching this, who knows. And I'll have a quick look at one more in Austria, which I sometimes use, and that's willhaben.at. So this is sort of a general small ad site. And under Marktplatz, we can look for example, guitar stuff. So let's look for a Strymon timeline. Looks like I've done this before. And check out some of the prices. So around 370, 420. And there's actually not too many listings. And the thing here where it really comes into play is that if you're looking for something that you simply can't find online, or as an example, I was looking for the Temple Audio Duo 24 pedal board, and I wanted to buy it used, and I couldn't really find many listings. I would find listings for other sizes of pedal boards, and I actually ended up finding a really good listing on this Austrian website for a Duo 24 with accessories and things like that, and a case for a good price. And luckily they were up for shipping it to Luxembourg with me paying the extra shipping costs. So that was really nice. So to finish off, we'll look at various prices or average prices of various bits of gear that I've put through a few of these websites, so we can have a quick overview. So here's a spreadsheet that I put together quickly, showing a few items, the low to high ranges. I've also put a euros to USD conversion here with a few figures, so you have some idea of the price differences. I'll put out a quick apology for the glare that's been on my glasses the whole time. I recorded most of this video only to realize that my glasses were glaring back for whatever reason because of the screen, so my apologies for that. But I need the glasses to see the screen, so it's, yeah, kind of tough. But anyway, so for the Strymon timeline, I looked at France, Germany, the Netherlands, and Italy. It's a small sample size, but it gives a good idea. So for the Strymon timeline, and I'd also say the Engel Powerball 2, which I threw in there, we're seeing relatively similar kind of used prices. Germany being a bit lower, Italy being a bit lower in this case. And then for the Powerball 2, there was a lower listing in France than in, say, Germany. But I will say I found more listings, I think, in Germany. I didn't actually find any listings in the Netherlands, at least for used. But that can also be because I'm only using that one website. There may be others, or maybe other things to look at. And that's where Facebook groups, for example, would come into play. Things get interesting when we're looking at things such as the Mesa Boogie dual rectifier. They're a bit harder to find or less common to buy in Europe per se. So this is where we see quite a wide range of prices. I will say there's a lot of variants and models of the dual rectifier. I was looking in this case at the solo head, the 100 watt solo head. I wasn't looking at, say, the Reborn, I think that's what it's called, or some other issues, but I was just looking for the Mesa Boogie dual rectifier and then the solo head by itself. And here's where we can see quite a wide range of prices. So in France, we're going from around 1150 to 2000. I only found one or two listings in Germany and also the Netherlands, and they were closer to over 2000 or just underneath 2000 here. And Italy as well, you can get some really good deals on Mesa Boogie gear, it seems. And I found quite a lot more Mesa Boogie listings in Italy for some reason than I did in these two other countries. And I picked the Marshall JVM 410H, with a relatively common head that people have bought or to try and find used. And here we see a very wide range of prices. So in France, it goes down as low as 560, higher end at 950, Germany 600. There's only one listing or two that I found in the Netherlands. And Italy goes down to 730. And there's some crazy deals at the long end, at the sort of the lower end, if you're into that kind of amp. And if you drive as well, I think you can get a crazy deal on, for example, this amp. And I will also add that sometimes you get these package deals. So people are selling their tube amp with like a 4x12 or a 2x12, and the price of both those combined are actually stupidly low. So you can get a really good deal on that. And then finally, the Fender Blues Junior 3, where prices were fairly similar as well. So somewhat like the Strymon Timeline, Engel Powerball 2, and these others, we're seeing similar sort of prices on that. So hopefully that was interesting for you. That can be a bit weird to watch someone basically scroll through different websites and talk about, search results and things like that. But maybe it gives you some ideas and insights into sort of prices and things that you can find in Europe on the used market. So to answer the question I wrote at the very start of what are some of the best deals that I've had on used gear or things that I've found, and I'll do a quick note. I live opposite something called Troc, which is like a pawn shop, P-A-W-N. Get your mind out the gutter. And so they have a lot of various, random things that are used. And usually you go in there and you might buy something like furniture and things like that. And on the very, very odd occasion, because I used to go in there maybe once a week, every 2 weeks, you'll find some sort of guitar gear. And I found a K&M. It's one of those Nitro 5 guitar racks. I'll put a picture on here as well. And for whatever reason, it was in the box and it was listed for 20 euros. And I think they retail new around 120, 130 odd, or maybe more. So it was just one of those days where you're like, this is insane. Did they mislabel it? But I think for whatever reason that they saw that since there was plastic on it, as weird as this might sound, which is actually there to protect and stop, nitro lacquer being bruised and grazed, it was marked at like a stupid price. They didn't even look online, I think. So that was a really good deal that I made over here. And I think one of the best deals that I made in terms of an amp purchase was for a VHT Sig X amp, which are no longer made. And the listing to begin with was really low. I think it was something like 700 or 740 euros, which is absolutely insane for the head. And it turns out that he was also looking for a delay pedal. So I used to own a Strymon Timeline at the time, and I just put it forward. It's like, oh yeah, well, if you're looking for a delay, I have the Timeline. Maybe you want a part exchange, sort of a trade with cash. He was totally up for that. So I ended up sending him the Timeline and then paying the remaining, it must have been like 350 euros or so for the amp head. And that was just a crazy deal that I don't think would come around very often. So for one, it was priced extremely low. And then on top of that, he was up for doing like a part exchange trade. So these are the sort of things that can happen when, you start looking online, and most importantly, talk to people. There's this really great community, I think, of avid guitar fanatics, shall we say, and like-minded people out there. I have a lot of friends that I spend a lot of time just talking about guitar gear and things like that. I'm sure, or I hope that you do as well. And I'm glad to be able to share these sort of stories. So thanks again for watching. I'll put the various links in the description box below so you can check those out. And hope to see you in the next video where we'll get back to some more guitar playing. And if you like this kind of content, please drop a like and subscribe. It really helps me out. Thanks.